Hi, welcome to another episode of ComSpeak. As you've noticed by now, we're doing ComSpeak differently, where our guest is sitting remotely and answering our questions. In season 1, if you've seen, we had our guest in the studio here in Gurgaon to answer questions about their life's journey in the world of public relations. Today we have a guest who's special. She's special because she's one of India's youngest CEOs of a public relations firm, which is ranked the second biggest firm in the world and the top 5 in India. You've guessed it by now. We have with us Valerie Pinto. Valerie Pinto is the CEO of Weber Shandwick in India and oversees various other brands of the group in the Indian subcontinent. Thank you, Valerie, for joining us and spending your precious time to share insights on questions we'll ask you that inspire an entire new generation of PR professionals. We look forward to hearing from you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Amith.
I'll jump in straight away and ask you the question we ask all our guests. What led to you getting into public relations? Tell us about that journey and the story that got you into public relations nearly 24, 25 years ago.
Thanks, Amith. I'm really happy to be here. The journey to public relations has been a fairly interesting one because I did start out in sales and marketing. And I was thrown into marketing communications at the Taj. And then because no one else wanted to write the brochures, I started writing them. And from there started my journey of public relations. And it's also genetic in my family because my aunt was the head of communications for L&T for many, many years. And I always looked up to her as my role model. She was very successful. She handled, many big assignments in India. And as we were growing up, I always wondered, what does this aunt do? And then she never actually articulated it to us that much. But when I grew and I took into the profession, I realized, wow, and everyone thinks I'm following her steps in the family, but yeah, that's actually how my journey into public relations started.
No, thanks. That's interesting to know. You've grown up and spent most of your life in Mumbai, and Mumbai is a city that runs on energy and a lot of public relations as well in different ways. It's the hub of the banking and financial sector. It's the hub of the film and entertainment sector in the country, and many other FMCG brands have evolved in the city of Mumbai over the years. Was there a role any of these sectors played in your life to help you get into the career you chose 25 years ago?
So I am an economics and political science student from St. Xavier's College. My orientation has always been in the financial space, and I was always interested in economics and politics. That's how my education has been. That's my foundation. And Mumbai at that time when we started out was the financial sort of capital in a sense. It still is, but at that time a lot of activity was happening in Mumbai. So clients like American Express, MasterCard, Goldman Sachs, very corporate sort of clients were really my go-to sector. And that's essentially how I started. In fact, when I first joined Perfect Relations, I was thrown into managing a GDR for VSNL. I had zero idea about what a GDR even meant. But I quickly jumped in, got into investor relations. I must have studied the financial textbook of the 11th grade commerce overnight because I had to understand what a balance sheet was and how did I have to project it, because it was a presentation to the telecom ministry and I was assisting the chairman and I was just a young kid at that time. But fortunately, I had some great people around me who helped. The CS of VSNL, and we did it. And that's my orientation. That's how I've even grown in the public relations industry, by just learning from others and deep diving into uncharted territory, so to speak. So yeah.
So Valerie, we've heard and seen and known that you've largely been in 2 companies, about 16 years in Perfect Relations and about 7 years now in Weber Shandwick. But we also know, and we heard of it a little while ago, then you spent a few years, few months, maybe here and there, working in a couple of in-house jobs at the Taj, at UTV. Tell us about those jobs and how you navigated from moving from those roles to joining a consultancy like Perfect Relations way back in the late 90s.
So when you're really young, I was really young when I started my career in public relations, right? So when you're really young, you are very enamored by the corporate world, big brands, etc. And I did not even know about the whole agency space when I started working at that time. So I joined UTV, and when I was at UTV, I was very fortunate. The CFO of UTV actually, who was working very closely with Ronnie Screwvala at that time, said to me that if you really want to grow in this industry and do a good job, you need to get some professional sort of degree, and make sure you go and work with an agency where you get a lot of exposure across different clients, across different industries. Only then will you be able to get into a corporate and add that, value. If you want to be a truly great PR professional. And that's really how I moved away from UTV, where I was actually the manager of corporate communications it was my first job. I must have been at that time earning a big salary. And then I took up this job in Perfect Relations. I got a, executive, like a very... the lowest job possible in the company. And they paid me 3,000 rupees. And at that time, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And should I really be doing this? Because when you're young, money means a lot, right? But again, this person told me that this will be most valuable as an experience for you. At this age, don't think about money. Think about, gaining as much experience as much as possible. And with a very heavy heart, I said, okay, fine. Let me do this. And that's how I joined Perfect Relations.
Interesting. Who was your first boss at Perfect Relations? Tell us about that journey a little bit. Who was your boss and how did the initial months in that new job go like?
So silly. But I joined Perfect Relations and I joined their investor relations team. Like I mentioned to you, I was thrown into doing their GDR because I was working in corporate communications with UTV. So they thought I must have had this great experience in financial communications. So they put me in the IR team. And I had this person called Charu Chug, who was my boss. And she was pregnant. And I joined the first day and I sat in the reception. And I just kept looking at a soft code in front of me. I came the next day, I looked at the soft code in front of me. And then I was like, what is this nonsense? I was in UTV, I was doing so much. And now I'm just sitting here. And so I went up to her and I said, ma'am, I need something to do. And she said, okay, go and get the printout from the printer. So I said, okay. So I went, I got the printout. She made a lot of changes in that printout, a lot of changes, like in different color pens, I remember. And she said, make these changes and bring them back to me. So I sat on a computer, which they didn't have in the office at that time. So you had to wait in line to get a computer, right? Those days, I mean, not everyone had computers. So I waited in line and I made the changes. I took a printout and I went back to her. And she made again changes on that document. And she sent me back to my computer to stand in line. And then I was like, this is it, why don't you come and make the changes yourself on this computer and finish it off, right? What's the point? Right. But no, that was, and you have to do it. Like when you're a executive, you just joined that. Maybe that's what your boss wanted you to do. And then before you know it, the next week she quit. And I was the only person left in the investor relations team. With a BSNL GDR, with Mahindra and Mahindra or Bombay Dyeing labor issues, and Castrol, which was a listed company, and American Express. And I was like, I had to be honest, at that time, I had zero idea what I was going to do with all these clients. So I picked up the phone and the person she used to report directly to Delhi, which was Dilip and Bobby. So I picked up the phone to Dilip. I remember this very clearly. And I said, Dilip, this is what has happened. And I would like to first introduce you. I'm Valerie Pinto, blah, blah, blah. And he said, in Perfect Relations, we have a theory. We throw people into the deep sea. If they swim, we watch them swim. If they drown, we don't even say bye. And I was like, okay, what the hell is this, right? So I said, okay, let me take this up as a challenge and let me see whether I can do this. And that's how I dived into the first GDR of my life. Again, I went back to that CFO from UTB and I said, you threw me here, you better help me with this presentation. I think he sat up all night with me making that presentation because that she left right in the middle of the GDR, right? And the presentation was the next day. So that's my first boss and my first experience.
That's your baptism of fire, which eventually led you to becoming one of India's youngest CEOs of a top 10 firm. So tell us, how did that happen? Most people today, men and women, wait to be in their late 30s, early 40s for that CEO job. But you must have been in your late 20s or early 30s. I'm not getting into the age bracket, but you were pretty young. And you became the CEO of Perfect Relations. How did that happen? How did you grow into that CEO role? Was there an ambition? Was it a plan? Or it just fell into place at some point of time? Tell us about that journey of becoming a CEO from wherever you were at a senior level in the company.
So I must have been 20, I think, when all of this happened at Perfect Relations. And soon after that, they bifurcated their whole team into Buzz. And I remember that very clearly. And I was left with nobody in Weber Shandwick, just myself, the admin guy and the peon.
Nobody in Perfect Relations, you mean?
Nobody in Perfect Relations. No, in Perfect Relations. They went to Buzz. And whoever was there was also not there anymore. And it was just me, these 4 or 5 clients. And I said, oh, damn, what do I do? So I went to O&M for a job. I said, I have to get out of here. I went to O&M for a job, and I remember they asked me to correct my own brochure, which I wrote at the Taj. And they said, this is a bad brochure. Make this brochure. I felt so sad that I was correcting my own brochure, and I didn't obviously get that job. And then I said, listen, this PR and all is not working. Let me join as guest relations at Oberoi. So I went to join as guest relations at Oberoi. I got through the job. And I remember another person who was working in the team before at Perfect Relations was the other person also who got finalized in that job. And then they asked me one question in that final interview. What's important to you, hard work or smart work? So I said, smart, hard work. And I didn't get the job. So I came back to Perfect Relations and said, maybe this is it. Let me get down to what I have in my hand and let's do the best I can. And to be honest, Dilip and Bobby were like absolutely amazing at, really putting you into that experience and allowing you to make the mistakes, learn, build again. And they have the patience, right? No one else has the patience. And for them, the business was based out of Delhi. Whatever was in Bombay was like, chutta change, as they would say. So if she makes it, she makes it. If she doesn't make it, it's okay. So yeah, and then from there, we just hired new people completely. And we grew. And then they saw that I had a great team. So they made me the Western region head. I remember Pune and Ahmedabad and all these markets. And that too also started growing fairly well. We grew and became very large in these markets. And so they said, okay, let's make her the CEO. So I became a CEO at 25 or 30, whatever that age was. And I did not even know what a CEO does. But I became a CEO and started focusing on just bringing in business and running with whatever I had. My best, I think I gave my 150% to everything I did. And Dilip and Bobby were just great at, bringing in the business, and I was really great at operationally running it. And that's how 16, 17 years passed. And I became their CEO at 28.
Right.
Yeah.
I still remember that many would say that there's never been a CEO in India in the PR firms of the last 15 years who became a CEO in his or her 20s, unless they were founders of their firms. I mean, to be a employee CEO, it's very rare. And I don't think anybody has become a CEO of a large firm other than you in their 20s. And that's fascinating and inspiring as well. Before I come to your current job and a couple of questions, I'm going to ask you 2 quick questions that will help people listening to this about campaigns you worked on. Tell us one communication or PR campaign that you worked on that you're super proud of. I'm sure you worked on hundreds and thousands of those maybe in the last 24, 25 years. But tell us one that stands out for you, you're proud of, you feel you wish you work on something like that in the future again and again. So tell us one communication campaign that stands out for you.
Actually, the one we did recently with Dharavi and the whole COVID situation, right? When Corona just broke open, everyone was very concerned about Dharavi as the slum, and we said, listen, we've got to get everyone in Dharavi to know or learn about social distancing. I remember I got a call from the client. And there were no newspapers. I know at that time there were newspapers had stopped. How do you even get into the slum of Dharavi? You can't get media there. You can't get anyone there. What do we do, right? I mean, we were all sitting and thinking, is there something that one can do? And so we said, okay, fine. Let's use music and let's bring all the belly of Dharavi out in that listing. And we use the gully boys from Dharavi to actually talk to their peers and teach them how to stay home and stay safe and use social distancing. It's an album we put together, which is called Stay Home, Stay Safe. We also realized that they don't speak Hindi is not the first language in Dharavi. The first language is actually Tamil, Marathi, and then Hindi. So we made this rap in 3 languages, and we made sure that we went across to all the Bollywood actors we can, like Akshay Kumar, to Sunil Shetty, Dia Mirza, and whoever was able to. And we got a Marathi star, we got a Tamil star to come in and actually lip sync the song for the boys so that it gets that much more traction. And I remember it spread like wildfire. Everyone was saying, stay home, stay safe. You can Google it, YouTube it, whatever. It got like many millions of views. It was shared across all these celebrities' platforms. And we got attention to that whole thing about keeping distance. We also did a lot of animated videos on the ground to teach people how to use common areas, right? To how to make a tipping tap open a tap without touching it, how to use the toilet, how to, not spit, how to stay, in the same house, but in a very interesting, at a distance. And we used Bollywood humor to actually paint on various toilets, etc., to teach people to stay at a distance. And I think that was so powerful. And we see that Dharavi has had 0 cases. Recently as well, WHO recognized Dharavi for all the work it did around this period of time to keep COVID away. And I think that was so powerful. It was a different kind of PR idea, right? It was not the typical media relations. We got on all national television. I think we were on all national television. We were on all media. We used WhatsApp and everything else. And it was just amazing that we made a difference on the ground. And I think for me, that was like super fulfilling. And I want to do more of that kind of work.
Nice. That's good to know. Thanks for sharing that. And tell us about one campaign that you never worked on, to be Indian, global, preferably Indian, and you wish you worked on that campaign, you admire that campaign. Anytime in your last 15, 20, 25 years of your career, one PR campaign that maybe you judged as part of a jury somewhere and you said, wow, this is the campaign I wish I was part of. Is there one like that that will help our viewers look up, read, learn more about that campaign?
So there's not just one. Actually, there are a few. There are some brands that I wish I could have worked on, because the way they think about communications is very different. So IKEA, for example, is a very interesting. Every jury I've sat on, IKEA has had something truly amazing, for their simple catalog to the data that they use of people on their and very simple campaigns, but extremely impactful from a business standpoint. Burger King and how they do their communications and PR to battle McDonald's. That's very interesting if you follow them as a brand. The other one is Nike. I think they do a brilliant job on making sure that they are so relevant to whatever they do. So these brands today just inspire you, right? You want to watch next. What's next? What are they going to come up with next? And I really wish I had the same energy to do stuff like that.
Oh, fascinating. I've been watching the various developments at Weber Shandwick globally and in India over the years. I see now Weber Shandwick has a solid, strong leadership of women at the helm, with Gail and then I think Susan being announced as a president a few days ago, and you run Weber Shandwick in India. Tell us about a couple of things. One is Weber Shandwick is the world's number 2 firm, just slightly behind Edelman. And in India, it's a top 5 firm. What are your challenges that you see and you face as the CEO of Weber Shandwick in India? What are the 2-3 challenges you face as a CEO on a day-to-day? And how are you overcoming them? How are you managing to deal with those challenges that could be of any kind, internal, external? Share some thoughts and insights on that, Valerie.
So, Weber Shandwick as a agency from a cultural standpoint does not make any distinction between women, men. We have a great sort of diversity and equality sort of philosophy, and from a global standpoint as well as from a regional standpoint, if you hold a position in these firms, the expectation is for you to kind of be whoever you are, but deliver to what is expected out of you, right? So, and the support from your colleagues, the support from anyone in the company is absolutely fabulous. So I won't say that I have any challenges of being able to deliver within the IPG network or even within the Weber Shandwick world, because right from whether it's Gail or Susan or Baxter or anybody is absolutely accessible if you have, or even Tyler, for example, if you have a problem or a situation. As India's CEO or as a CEO in a multinational firm in India, I think I think the challenge is going to be coming in from the environment right now in terms of how we're able to advise clients to navigate what the environment is throwing back at us. There's a huge attention towards India, given the whole geopolitical situations that we're seeing. So how do you prep yourself to be able to build a bridge or build those bridges for other sort of trade bodies or large companies who are looking to invest into India? How do you position India to the rest of the world? And it has nothing to do with being a female CEO or not, but those are the challenges which would likely to come up. In India, yes, there's a very strong sort of bias I see. Many clients kind of they always want to deal with a male on the other side whom they can give 2-3 sort of words and get their jobs done. But I've always been able to stay strong and make sure that they don't feel that gap or that miss or whatever it may be. I try my best.
No, I hear you and I get that. And that's why I asked that question. The thinking is that I don't see a difference too, but I see that there are very few employee CEOs in the PR world in India, in the top 20 firms. There are a lot of women founders, but employee CEOs are very few compared to the male counterparts. So How can that change in the future? I don't know if you have answers to that now, but if you have thoughts, you can throw some light on that. But at some point of time, the next few minutes we have together, we can touch upon that as well. I'm going to come back to that if need be in a moment or two. I'm going to just digress completely from the world of work and take you back to your childhood and teenage days. Just throw some light and share with us and our viewers, what was it like being a schoolgirl in Mumbai? Tell us about a couple of things that you did, maybe achievements, unique things that you did as a schoolgirl that people don't know and you not hesitate to share about.
So I was always into sport. I was always out of the house, basically. I was never at home. So I would wake up but I had this passion to be the best at whatever I was doing. So I used to wake up actually at 4 a.m. and go take a train. I lived in Mulund and I used to take a train and go to Thane, to Dadabhai Konke Stadium to run and train to become an athlete. And I used to come back home, shower and get to work. And that was my routine in the morning. And I did, with all of that practice, become actually represented or was part of the national team for under 14 at a heptathlon athlete. And I still hold some records, for short put of all the things. And I used to be really little, very thin at that time. I wish I was going back. But yeah, that was me. I used to do 7 events. I played basketball for the school. And after that, when I always wanted to play tennis. And to play tennis in Mumbai is very hard because you either have to be a member of a gymkhana or whatever. And we just didn't have enough money at that time. So I said, one day I'm going to play tennis. And at that time, Steffi Graf used to be and Monica Seles. And I wanted to be like them. And I had this immense passion. And the moment I started working and I got my own money, I joined NSCI and I trained and I learned and I played corporate tennis. I won the tennis championship and then I stopped again. So that's a little bit about me. I've been very determined if I take up something and I do it. And that's really coming from my childhood.
Nice. So you've told us about your sporting life as a youngster. What do you do now? You have a day job as CEO. What do you do now to unwind? What do you do for leisure while in Mumbai? How do you spend time beyond work?
So, because of the lockdown, it's been very hard, but otherwise I still play tennis as much as I can. I do my yoga. I'm level 5 now. I'm pretty advanced with yoga. And I cook. So I love to cook. I love to try new things. I didn't make bread or dalgona coffee in the lockdown, but I cook and I made sure that, people who were alone and didn't have help, I cooked for them as well. So I did all of that during the lockdown and I love cooking. So yeah.
Fascinating. We are almost at the end of this interaction. I have a couple of more questions. One is you've had a couple of interesting stalwarts as bosses over the years. You can choose to name one of them or you can choose not to. But what is that one big learning from one of your bosses that has helped you over the years to do things differently or do things in a way that you may not have done? So one learning from any of your bosses over the last 2+ decades of working in the world of PR.
You cannot command respect. You have to earn it. And I think that is the biggest learning I've ever had. And always lead by example. Another thing which I've learned from Dilip, lead by example. Never assume anybody knows anything. Always assume they have no idea and you'll be very successful.
Thanks. That's helpful. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And it's a very silly question that a lot of people ask young people joining a job. I'm asking you this because you've done so much in your 20s and 30s and you have so many more years ahead of you. So where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years is too short. Leading a business, I will still be leading a business. I will be building strong communities and always learning and solving. I think that's what I will do for the rest of my life.
Fascinating. So we are almost at the end of this interview. I'm going to end with a quick rapid fire round of around 10 questions. You have just 5 seconds to think and answer those 10 questions I have for you. And with that, we'll wrap it up and hope people watching this episode learn new things from you, and you continue being an inspiration for a lot of youngsters, a lot of not so young people as well. I'll straight away jump into this rapid fire. 10 questions for you. What's the brand you trust the most?
Tata.
What's your favorite book?
Think Again by Adam Grant.
Okay. The best client brand you have worked on so far over the last 25 years?
Best client brand I've worked on for the last 25 years, Coca-Cola.
Okay. The one professional role model you look up to?
Gail Hyman.
Okay. An Indian communicator you admire the most?
Sanjay Khajuria.
Okay. A communications campaign, and we spoke of brands earlier, that you wish you had worked on from an Indian context. You spoke of global brands. An Indian campaign. Sorry?
The IKEA launch.
Okay. Your favorite holiday destination where you love to go and take a little break from usual work from?
The south of France.
Wow. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Fun, happy, and soulful.
One learning from the last 12 months that we've all gone through together. What's that one learning for you?
Never take anyone or anything for granted.
Okay. And the final question, the best boss you've ever worked for, present or past?
Dilip Cherian.
Thank you so much, Valerie. This was a really insightful and engaging chat. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did asking you these questions. I think we got a new set of insights into your life. We've seen you as a very, very busy person working on campaigns for clients, but we see that there's life beyond those campaign work that you do, from cooking and playing tennis and your early avatar as a teenager, as an athlete as well. Thank you so much for your time. We hope people watching this will learn and gain insights about your life and your journey that inspires them.